Orbital scientist Tay stared at the blue-green planet through the viewscreen of his ship. His antennae twitched with excitement as the scanners confirmed what he'd suspected for weeks. This world harbored intelligent life. After 50 cycles of deep space exploration, he had finally made a discovery worthy of the Zyloxian Science Academy. Recording log entry, Tay spoke into his personal data pad. Day 294 of expedition, found inhabited planet in previously unmapped sector. Preliminary scans show bipedal life forms using primitive technology. Atmosphere breathable but uncomfortably rich in oxygen. Requesting permission to establish observation post. 3 days later, the High Council approved his mission. Tay selected 4 fellow scientists for his team and prepared their cloaking equipment. The Zyloxians prided themselves on their strict non-interference protocols. No species should know they were being studied until they reached proper space travel capability. Their shuttle landed on Earth's northern continent, in a region the locals called Alaska. The temperature readings made Tay's inner eyelids flutter with concern. Even with thermal regulators, they would need to be careful. Zyloxian biology wasn't designed for extreme cold. Perfect observation position, his assistant Day noted as they set up their equipment on a ridge overlooking a human research station. They won't detect our technology, and we can monitor all activities. Tay nodded, adjusting his breathing apparatus. The oxygen-rich air would make them lightheaded if they weren't careful. Begin recording all data. I want to understand their daily patterns first. What they witnessed over the next week shattered many of Tay's scientific assumptions. These humans were incomprehensible. They've been awake for 18 hours now, Tay muttered on the 3rd day, watching through high-powered scopes as the humans worked tirelessly at their equipment. Their biochemistry should have collapsed hours ago. Day checked his readings, again. And the outside temperature is minus 30 degrees. Our suits would fail in those conditions within minutes, yet the humans moved through the snow wearing what appeared to be simple layered fabric coverings. Occasionally they removed their outer coverings while still outside, something that would kill a Zyloxian instantly. Most disturbing was their consumption habits. Tay watched in horror as the humans deliberately ingested stimulants, a bitter dark liquid and various processed chemical compounds, specifically to prevent their bodies from resting. They're poisoning themselves, Tay noted. Yet their productivity increases. This defies biological logic. On the 7th day of observation, disaster struck. A storm system appeared with shocking speed, something their meteorological equipment had failed to predict. Howling winds carrying ice particles battered their observation post. We need to return to the ship, Day urged as their equipment began shutting down from the cold. These conditions are beyond safety parameters. Tay was about to agree when a cracking sound echoed through their shelter. The main support beam, unable to withstand the wind pressure, had snapped. Before any of them could react, the ceiling collapsed. Tay regained consciousness under debris, pain shooting through his body. His environmental suit had been torn, and frigid air burned his sensitive skin. Worse, the communication array was crushed. Day? Min? Can anyone respond? Tay called weakly through his emergency communicator. Only static answered. With growing horror, Tay realized he was trapped and injured in conditions that would quickly kill even a healthy Zyloxian. His species' natural response would be to enter hibernation stasis, but that would only delay the inevitable. Through his remaining functional scanner, Tay observed the human station. Surely they too would be sheltering from this deadly storm, if they even survived it. What he saw next changed everything he thought he knew about resilience. The humans weren't hiding at all. They were venturing out into the storm. 2 of them fought through the whiteout conditions, carrying equipment and supplies. Their life signs showed stress, but nowhere near critical failure. How was this possible? As Tay's systems began to shut down from exposure, he watched the humans working to secure their structures against the storm. One of them fell, clearly injured, when a metal panel broke loose in the wind and struck them. Tay expected the logical response. The others would abandon the weakened member to preserve resources. Instead, he witnessed 3 humans form a protective circle around their injured companion. They lifted the wounded human and carried them back to shelter. sacrificing their own safety and expending precious energy. Illogical, Tay whispered as his consciousness began to fade. His fingers weakly tapped in final observations on his personal recorder. These humans, they endure conditions that should be fatal. They sacrifice individual safety for group survival. They intentionally push biological limits. As darkness crept into his vision, Tay saw the storm intensify. His final thought before emergency hibernation took hold was that if he somehow survived, the Zyloxian understanding of biological capability would need complete revision. The humans were not just another species. They were something else entirely. Something both fascinating and terrifying. The blizzard raged for 3 days. Tay drifted in and out of consciousness, his body fighting to maintain hibernation despite the damage to his environmental suit. Each time he woke, the bitter cold shocked his system, until finally his emergency beacon activated, a last resort that risked exposing their observation mission. Through his cracked view screen, Tay watched the human outpost with fading hope. His training had taught him that no intelligent species would risk their lives in such conditions. The logical response would be to wait for the storm to pass. The humans proved him wrong again, even as the wind howled at speeds that could strip flesh from bone. A group of 4 humans emerged from their shelter. They wore slightly thicker versions of their usual coverings, but nothing like the fully sealed survival suits Zyloxians required. Through his damaged scanner, Tay could see their body temperatures dropping dangerously, yet they continued moving with purpose. Impossible, he whispered, the word forming as a visible cloud in the freezing air of his collapsed shelter. The humans had split into teams, methodically checking structures and equipment. What surprised Tay most was their communication method. They weren't using technology but simply shouting over the wind, their voices carrying remarkably through the storm. When one fell in a drift of snow, the others didn't hesitate. They pulled their companion up and continued their work. Tay's scientific mind struggled to process what he was seeing. These creatures were enduring conditions that would kill most species in the galactic database, yet showing minimal signs of distress. His scanner picked up elevated heart rates and stress hormones, but nowhere near fatal levels. On the second day of the storm, Tay witnessed something that defied all biological understanding. The power systems at the human outpost failed. In temperatures that registered at -45 degrees on his equipment, 2 humans ventured out to the generator building. They worked without protective gloves for extended periods, their hands exposed to the killing cold while making delicate repairs. Their extremities should be suffering catastrophic tissue damage, Tay noted weakly into his recorder. Yet they continue to function. More shocking still was what happened when one human's hands became too stiff from cold to operate the tools. Rather than retreating to safety, the human simply placed their bare hands against their body for a few minutes, then returned to work. This cycle repeated for hours until the generator rumbled back to life. By the 3rd day, Tay's systems were failing. His hibernation cycles were growing longer, and each time he woke, more warning lights blinked on his damaged suit. He knew he would not survive another day. As his vision blurred, Tay noticed new activity at the human outpost. Despite the continuing storm, they were organizing what appeared to be a search party. His scientific curiosity flared one last time. What could they possibly be looking for in these conditions? The answer became clear as he watched them gather. Equipment, medical supplies, thermal blankets, communication devices. They weren't seeking resources or securing equipment. They were looking for survivors. The realization struck Tay with stunning force. His emergency beacon was still active, broadcasting on universal frequencies. Somehow these primitive humans had detected his signal and were preparing to investigate, risking their lives for an unknown entity. Through his fading consciousness, Tay watched 6 humans leave their shelter, forming a chain as they battled through the snow toward his location. Their determination seemed to defy the storm itself. When one stumbled, the others helped without hesitation. When the path became too deep with snow, they simply took turns breaking trail, rotating the most exhausting position among them. They function as a single organism, Tay whispered to his recorder, yet maintain individual capabilities. The efficiency is beautiful. As the humans drew closer, Tay observed something else extraordinary. One human's temperature readings were dropping dangerously, limbs showing signs of freezing. By all biological logic, the group should abandon this weakened member. Instead, two others surrounded their struggling companion, sharing body heat while continuing to move forward. Their survival instinct extends beyond the individual, Tay noted with wonder. They willingly compromise personal safety for collective success. When the humans were within 500 meters of his position, Tay's scanner detected something else approaching from the opposite direction, a Zyloxian rescue vessel, finally responding to his emergency signal. His own people were coming, but the humans would reach him first. With his last moments of clarity, Tay made a decision that violated every protocol of his mission. He deactivated his cloaking device, allowing the humans to find him. If these remarkable creatures could survive such conditions, perhaps they could help him survive too. As darkness claimed him again, Tay's final conscious thought was of the humans trudging relentlessly through the snow toward him. Their bodies should have failed hours ago. Their minds should have surrendered to the cold. Their group should have fragmented under stress. Yet they continued, one step after another, defying nature itself, with nothing more than determination, and their strangely resilient physiology. In his 17 cycles as a xenobiologist, Tay had never encountered anything so terrifying or so inspiring as human endurance. The sound of crunching snow pulled Tay from the depths of hibernation. His body fought against consciousness, a survival mechanism to preserve his failing systems. But something in those approaching footsteps triggered his scientist's curiosity, even in his near-death state. Through frost-clouded eyes, Tay watched as the shelter's collapsed entrance filled with movement. Snow and debris shifted and suddenly light poured in, the harsh beam of a human illumination device cutting through the darkness. Holy. The human voice trailed off, speaking their primitive language that Tay's translator struggled to process. His translator chip was operating at minimum power, prioritizing basic functions. More voices joined the first. Tay could make out their silhouettes now. Bulky from their cold weather gear, but unmistakably human. They had found him. The impossible had happened. "It's alive," one called out, the translator finally catching up. "I can see it breathing." The humans hesitated only briefly, a natural reaction upon discovering an alien life form. What happened next defied everything Tay had been taught about primitive species encounters. Instead of running or attacking the unknown, they moved toward him. The first human dropped to their knees beside Tay, pulling off a glove despite the deadly cold to press warm fingers against his neck, searching for a pulse point that didn't exist in Zyloxian anatomy. "I don't know what this is," the human said, voice steady despite the extraordinary circumstances, "but it's in trouble." Another human was already unpacking equipment, setting up what appeared to be a portable heating unit. "The body temperature seems dangerously low. Look at the blue coloring of the skin." "That might be normal for whatever this is," said a third human, already spreading a reflective thermal blanket. "But that cracked suit and the ice forming around the injuries definitely isn't good." Tay tried to speak, to warn them about Zyloxian biology, but could only manage a weak clicking sound from his throat membranes. The humans paused, then continued their work with even greater urgency. "It's trying to communicate," one said. "That's definitely intelligent." What struck Tay most wasn't their lack of fear, but their immediate shift into coordinated action. Without knowing anything about his species, they were making remarkably accurate assessments of his condition. The tallest human spoke into a communication device. "Base, this is Team 2. We've found someone. Not human. Repeat, not human. Appears injured and suffering from extreme cold exposure. Requesting immediate evacuation and medical team stand by." Through the pain and cold, Tay felt hands gently probing his injuries. They found the tear in his environmental suit and, using tools from their packs, began a temporary seal repair. One human removed their outer thermal layer and placed it over Tay, sacrificing their own protection. "The storm's picking up again," someone said. Evac team can't make it through for at least 3 hours. It doesn't have 3 hours, replied the human who seemed to be conducting a medical assessment. Look at these readings, assuming its biology works even remotely like ours. It's shutting down. Tay's translator caught fragments of their discussion as they debated options. The logical conclusion would be to save themselves, to leave the unknown alien and return to safety. That's what any rational species would do. Instead, they built a shelter around him using supplies from their packs, creating a wind barrier. They positioned their heating units to create a pocket of warmer air. 2 humans stayed beside him, monitoring his condition, while the others prepared a transport sled from composite materials. As they worked, Tay's scanner detected another signal, his own people approaching. The Zyloxian rescue team was near but still too far. They wouldn't arrive in time. The humans finished their makeshift sled. With careful movements that showed concern for his injuries, they transferred Tay onto it. The pain was intense, but he noticed how they watched his reactions, adjusting their hold when he made sounds of distress. "Ready?" the team leader asked, and the others nodded grimly. What followed was a journey that Tay would later struggle to describe to his superiors. The humans harnessed themselves to the sled and began the trek back through the blizzard. When one tired, another took their place without complaint. When the snow became too deep, they formed a line to break trail. The humans' breathing grew, labored, their movements slower as exhaustion and cold took their toll. Tay's scanner showed dangerous drops in their core temperatures. Frostbite was developing on exposed skin. By any rational assessment, they should abandon this rescue effort. They did not stop. Hours passed in a blur of white snow and determined human faces. Tay drifted between consciousness and hibernation, but each time he woke, the humans were still there, still moving forward one painful step at a time. When they finally reached the human base, Tay's systems were nearly shut down. Through dimming awareness, he registered being moved indoors. The shocking warmth, unfamiliar voices, and the urgent activity around him. Medical equipment beeped and humans called to each other as they worked. "Its physiology is completely different," someone was saying. "We need to be careful with any treatments." "The body structure suggests a different oxygen requirement," another observed. "Check those breathing patterns." In his last moments before full hibernation took hold, Tay felt something he had never experienced toward another species: profound respect. These humans had risked their lives to save him, a complete unknown. They had pushed their bodies, beyond reasonable limits, endured pain and cold that should have stopped them. As darkness claimed him, Tay heard the humans still working, still fighting to save him. His scientific mind formed one final observation before shutting down. If humans would do this for an alien stranger, what wouldn't they do for their own kind? The implications were both wondrous and terrifying. Warmth. That was Tay's first sensation as consciousness returned. Not the biting cold that had nearly killed him, but gentle, carefully regulated warmth. His inner eyelids fluttered open, sensory receptors adjusting to the light. He was in a room constructed of simple materials, wood and synthetic compounds. Medical equipment surrounded him, modified in strange ways that his foggy mind couldn't immediately comprehend. A clear tube connected to his breathing apparatus, delivering a carefully calibrated mixture of gases. A human sat nearby, eyes fixed on a data screen. When they noticed Tay's movement, they didn't startle or reach for a weapon. Instead, they smiled, a facial expression Tay had studied but never experienced directed at himself. "You're awake," the human said softly. "That's good. You had us worried." Tay tried to speak, but his vocal membranes were dry. The human seemed to understand and offered a small container of liquid. "We analyzed your biology as best we could," they explained. "This should be safe for your system. It's mostly water with trace minerals similar to what we found in your blood samples." Tay hesitated only briefly before accepting. His training warned against consuming anything provided by an unknown species, but his scientific curiosity won out. The liquid soothed his membranes, and he felt strength returning. "Thank you," he managed, his translator converting the clicks and whistles of his native speech into human language. The human's eyes widened. "You can understand us. That's incredible." They pressed a communication device. "Dr. Han, our patient is awake and communicating." Within minutes, the room filled with humans, medical professionals based on their attire and equipment. They moved with purpose but maintained distance, showing remarkable restraint for a species that had never encountered alien life. "I am Tay, orbital scientist of the Zyloxian exploratory fleet," he said formally, deciding that protocol no longer mattered. These humans had saved his life. They deserved truth. A tall human stepped forward. "I'm Dr. Han, Chief Medical Officer at this research station. You've been unconscious for nearly 3 days while we work to stabilize your condition." 3 days. Tay's antennae twitched with surprise. "How did... You know how to treat me?" The doctor gestured to the modified equipment. "We didn't, not really. We observed, tested carefully, and adapted. Your biology is fascinating. Your cellular structure handles oxygen completely differently than ours. When we realized that, we modified our ventilation system to reduce oxygen content for you." Another human stepped forward, holding what Tay recognized as his damage scanner. "Your technology helped too. We couldn't access most of it, but the medical monitoring functions gave us baseline readings." Tay looked at the equipment surrounding him, primitive by Zyloxian standards, yet ingeniously modified to support an alien physiology the humans had never encountered before. They had worked with partial information and improvised solutions that shouldn't have been possible with their technology level. "Why?" Tay finally asked the question burning in his mind. "Why expend such resources to save me?" The humans exchanged glances, seeming confused by the question. "Because you needed help," Dr. Han said simply, as if no other answer could possibly make sense. Before Tay could respond, a commotion outside interrupted them. The door burst open, and 3 Zyloxians entered. Sung, his mission commander, flanked by security officers. Their protective suits were sealed against the human environment, weapons visible at their sides. "Step away from our scientist," Sung ordered, his translator making the words sharp and commanding. To Tay's surprise, the humans didn't panic at the sight of more aliens. They moved aside carefully, maintaining calm despite the weapons. Dr. Han remained closest to Tay, a protective posture that wasn't lost on the Zyloxian commander. "Commander Sung," Tay acknowledged weakly, "these humans saved my life." Sung's antennae flattened with disapproval. "You have violated non-interference protocols. This species was under observation only." "Observation?" One of the humans stepped forward, the station leader based on the insignia. "You've been watching us?" Tay nodded. "For research purposes. We study developing species across the galaxy. Instead of anger, the human showed fascination." "How long have you been here? What have you learned about us?" This reaction clearly unsettled Sung, whose hand tightened on his weapon. "This conversation violates all protocols. We will retrieve our scientist and depart." Dr. Han crossed her arms. "Your scientist isn't ready for transport. His injuries require at least another day of monitoring." "Our medical technology is superior to yours," Sung replied coldly. "We will take care of our own." "Your superior technology wasn't what kept him alive for 3 days," the station leader countered. "It was humans working nonstop in shifts, learning an alien biology on the fly, and adapting our equipment when nothing else worked." Tay watched his commander's reaction carefully. Sung was processing what he was seeing, humans standing their ground showing no fear, and more surprisingly displaying genuine concern for a Zyloxian. "Explain," Sung demanded, turning to Tay. "How did these primitives save you when our own rescue team could not reach you in time?" Tay's answer came slowly, each word carefully chosen. "They did what should have been physically impossible, Commander. They ventured into conditions that would kill most species. They found me in a blizzard that our own sensors could barely penetrate. When one grew too weak, others compensated without hesitation or command." Sung's eyes narrowed. "For what purpose? What do they gain?" The station leader laughed, a sound that made the Zyloxian's antennae twitch nervously. "Gain? We didn't Calculate gain. We heard a distress signal and responded. That's what humans do. Illogical, Sung muttered, but Tay could see uncertainty in his commander's posture. That's what I thought too, Tay said quietly. Until I watched them work for 72 hours straight to keep me alive, adapting their technology, depriving themselves of sleep, risking radiation exposure to study my cellular structure. He gestured to the improvised medical equipment. They had no guidelines, no protocols, no previous experience with Zyloxian physiology. They simply refused to accept failure as an option. The revelation hung in the air between them. These humans had accomplished what should have been impossible, not through superior technology or knowledge, but through sheer determination and adaptability. As the Zyloxians absorbed this information, Dr. Han checked Tay's vital signs once more. Her gentle efficiency, even under the threatening gaze of Commander Sung, spoke volumes about human capacity to function under pressure. Tay knew that everything he'd witnessed would change Zyloxian understanding of humans forever. This wasn't just another primitive species awaiting development. This was something entirely different, something both inspiring and terrifying in its implications. The sky darkened as storm clouds gathered overhead. Everyone in our small town knew something wasn't right. For weeks, strange things had been happening. First, the birds stopped singing. Then, the water in the lake turned an unusual shade of green. Nobody wanted to talk about it, but we all felt it. Something big was coming. I was walking home from the corner store when I noticed an old man sitting on a bench near the town square. He wasn't from around here. His eyes followed me as I passed, and just as I thought I was in the clear, he called out, "Hey, young one, come here for a minute." I hesitated. My parents always warned me about talking to strangers, but something in his voice made me stop. He didn't seem threatening, just worried. "The signs are all around us," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "You've noticed them too, haven't you?" I nodded slowly. The birds, the lake. Everyone's acting strange. "Smart kid," he smiled. But it didn't reach his eyes. "What's happening here isn't natural, it's a warning." My heart beat faster. A warning about what? The old man looked up at the dark clouds. "They've been taking things from the earth for too long, digging too deep. Now the earth is fighting back." I thought about the huge factory on the edge of town, the one that had been expanding every year, creeping closer to our neighborhoods. Black smoke constantly poured from its towers, and trucks came and went at all hours. "The factory?" I asked. He nodded. "That's part of it. People think they can take and take without giving anything back. But the balance always catches up." Just then, a crack of thunder shook the ground. The old man didn't flinch. "There's not much time," he continued. "The storm is just the beginning." "What should we do?" I asked, suddenly feeling responsible for the entire town. "Spread the word. Get people to listen. The factory needs to stop what they're doing before it's too late." I looked around at my sleepy town. Most people here worked at the factory. It provided jobs, money, security. Asking them to turn against it would be like asking them to cut off their own hand. "Nobody will believe me," I said. "I'm just a kid." The old man reached into his pocket and pulled out a small smooth stone. It glowed with a faint blue light. "Show them this," he said, placing it in my palm. "It comes from deep under the factory. It's what they've been digging for. When people see it, they'll understand what's at stake." The stone felt warm in my hand, almost alive. "What is it?" "It's a piece of the Earth's heart. One of the last ones. If they find and destroy the rest, the balance will be broken forever." As, if on cue, the wind picked up, whistling through the trees, leaves swirled around us. "I have to go," the old man said, standing up. "They know I'm here. They'll be looking for me." "Wait," I called as he started walking away. "Who are you? How do you know all this?" He turned back, a sad smile on his face. "I used to work for them. I designed the machines that dig too deep. Now I'm trying to undo my mistake." Before I could ask anything else, he disappeared around a corner. I stood there, the glowing stone growing warmer in my hand. That night, I couldn't sleep. The stone sat on my nightstand, casting blue shadows on my ceiling. I thought about what the old man had said, about the warning, about responsibility. My parents were both asleep when I snuck out of the house. The storm had passed, but the air still felt electric. I headed toward my best friend's house first. If anyone would believe me, it would be them. As I walked through the quiet streets, I noticed other changes I hadn't seen before. The grass was turning brown despite the recent rain. Cracks were appearing in the sidewalks. The warning signs were everywhere, just like the old man said. By morning, 5 of us had gathered in my friend's basement. I showed them the stone, told them what the old man had said. Some were skeptical at first, but when they touched the stone, their expressions changed. They felt it too, the life pulsing inside. "So what's the plan?" my friend asked. "We can't exactly walk into the factory and tell them to stop." "We don't have to," I said, an idea forming. "We just need people to see the truth. Once they know what's happening, they'll help." We spent the rest of the day gathering evidence, pictures of the lake, samples of the discolored water, recordings of the unnatural silence where birds should be singing. And at the center of it all, the glowing stone, our proof that something precious was being destroyed. The warning had been given. Now it was up to us to spread the message. As the sun set, we looked out at our town from the hilltop. The factories. Lights glowed in the distance, smoke still billowing into the sky. The earth had warned us. The old man had warned us. Now we had to warn everyone else. Tomorrow would be the day everything changed. We just hoped it wasn't too late.